Bungie has given us various examples of prophecies in the Destiny universe. To name a few, Rhulk's prophecy wall, Vox Obscura, which all came true, and of course the prophecy dungeon itself. Today we're going to take a look back at some of these predictions and just how important they may be in the lead up to the Final Shape expansion. Let's first start with Rhulk's prophecy wall found on board his pyramid ship in the Witch Queen raid. Destiny's lore is littered with these prophecies, some from the guardians in the city like Lakshmi and so on, others from our enemies predicting their own futures. But both Vox Obscura and Rhulk's prophecies stand out to me from Witch Queen. Rhulk spoke of the witness and how it wanted to drink the light. In this room right here, we can see a wall, and if you input the symbols in a specific order, you get a message. Hive scorn, love darkness, worship witness. Pyramid fleet, enter earth, stop guardian. Witness, commune traveler, drink light. Witness, kill blank. This could have been a prophecy for the collapse or the events of Lightfall, or both. I don't know if what happened in Lightfall, if you'd call that drinking the light, but maybe it was just a metaphor. Vox Obscura was also a mission released in the same expansion. Psions were broadcasting out messages trying to persuade others to join Emperor Callus's cause instead of Keitel, join that Psion conclave. At the end of the mission in various weeks you can hear different predictions from these Psions, and all of these came true. Leviathan reborn, ship stealer revived in Aramis, city besieged, maybe this was the last city during Lightfall or Neomuna, and then the traveler infected with darkness, the end of Lightfall's campaign.
Despite your triumphs against the former Emperor, the Witness has transformed the Traveler, and gone somewhere we cannot follow.
Now what's interesting is that this conclave is still out there along with their leaders, maybe taking over the remnants of the Red Legion, as that's what most of their ranks consisted of. So this Psion outcast group makes these predictions and they come true. So it makes you wonder what else they know and if we'll encounter them in future seasons.
Light or dark, nothing changes. Everything dies. Light and dark, heaven or hell. What's the difference?
Well, that's our question, you lunatic.
We now come to the Prophecy Dungeon. It's worth noting that areas in the dungeon were likely designed for gameplay purposes first. Theme it around the 9, but what would be fun for the player, and then sprinkle in some lore with what's available. So sometimes we dive a little too deep in analyzing this stuff, just keep that in mind. The Prophecy Dungeon was released back in Season of the Arrivals in summer of 2020. Overall, the dungeon was meant to be the 9's answer to what the darkness is, what dark and light are, and how the Guardian should progress with these powers. Although the answer is pretty vague, there are some hints throughout the dungeon that make you think, enemies possibly tied to Aramis and Cabal. Locations we lost to darkness when the pyramids arrived, and so on. Symbolism is everywhere story-wise and geometry-wise, circles, squares, and pyramids. Looking back at Prophecy now, what did it predict? The first thing was that the 9 claimed to know the truth about dark and light, and they would tell us this at the end of the activity. Here are some of the quotes from the dungeon. Emissary, light and dark have met in Sol System before. Perhaps this time you'll change the outcome. You ask a question of pure potential. Death is intrinsic to the answer. Drifter says, I wouldn't say that. Clearly the 9 pass no judgment on dark or light. And they love passing judgment, trust. That means in their eyes, the two are the same. Eris says, light and dark are not the same. Didn't say the same, just the difference don't matter. The line death is intrinsic to the answer I thought was kind of interesting given the whole River of Souls and Final Shape afterlife stuff. Was death needed to experience some of this like Cade died and he's now in this realm? But the big answer, the 9 tell us that light or dark, it doesn't matter. We can use both for good if we wish. They are simply forces on their own and tools for whoever wields them. The same darkness that the Witness uses that we call evil is something that we think we use for good. The expansion right after this, Season of the Arrivals, would be Beyond Light, and that taught us to wield stasis, our first venture into our powers beyond the light, and Prophecy was that first step. Now, when I was doing some research on Prophecy here, some mentioned that the enemies we encounter may have also been hints at what's to come. We have the Kel Echo as one of the bosses, and then the Cabal Phalanx. The first one we fight is the Phalanx, and some people say this could be a reference to Keitel. I'm not sure. I don't know if we have any evidence for that, but hey, sure, why not? The second one was the Kel Echo, a new-looking enemy we've never seen before, and it was the final boss of this dungeon, perhaps alluding to Aramis, who we'd encounter in the expansion Beyond Light just a couple of months after this, using those powers of darkness. Prophecy also predicted the fall of the planets. Now, this kind of happened at the same time when the pyramids arrived in Arrivals, so the Nine either saw this and made these assumptions or knew it was going to happen. Titan, Mars, Mercury, and Io are all seen in this field near the Taken Blights. The cool part is they're not just seen here, there's actual dialogue that discusses some of their backstory. For Titan, Drifter and Eris speak about the pyramid looming over the moon and the creature that swam in its oceans, which we now know is Asa. At that point, Eris even knew that she was female. For Mars, we get talk about Anna Bray and Rasputin, how she's trying to fix Rasputin because he went dark, and those events would eventually happen in Season of the Seraph. So we had Titan returning with Asa in Season of the Deep, Mars returning, fixing Rasputin with Anna Bray, and then the last two we have are Mercury and Io. Mercury, Eris describes them carving a sector of Mercury onto this plane. Saint and Osiris need to hear about this. They call it a different version of Mercury though, no light or sundial and so on.
This looks like Mercury, but no traces of Osiris's light or Saint's. It's a counterfeit.
This is Nine space. They control reality here, and they did this for a reason.
It must be part of their answer to the question. How insufferable.
I'm launching spectral analysis off the Guardian's position. It's not exactly our Mercury. No tree of probabilities, no infinite forest.
What do you seek? A means to walk the corridors of time? Haven't you learned from Osiris's mistake?
Osiris took the sundial with him, wherever it is he went. I always wanted to take that thing for a spin.
Drifter and Eris also speak about Brother Vance and the cultists that followed Osiris around or tried to, so perhaps we may hear more about them if we do return to Mercury soon. And lastly here we have Asher's lab on Io. Characters discuss the pyramid over the last place the traveler touched in Seoul before the collapse, and also the Tree of Silver Wings that formed here during Arrival season. Eris theorized that they were trying to undo the traveler's work. So yeah, those planets fell to darkness during and after Arrivals, but some of these locations have either already been brought back or will likely in the coming seasons. Mars and Anna Bray back in Seraph, Titan in Season of the Deep. Mercury and Io appear in the cutscene of places Osiris says we need to look before opening the portal. We don't really have many hints of Brother Vance recently besides the lore given in Arrivals, but we've been getting heavy hints of Asher Mir since Lightfall. Another interesting find that I'm not quite sure to make of is related to Mara Sov. Her throne or piece of the Oracle engine is also found. Mara and the Awoken were born from light and dark, and she's a great example of using both of those powers for good. Or at least what we consider good. Mara was tempted by the Witness to join its side as a disciple in Witch Queen, but stood tall with the Guardians of the City. In Lightfall and more recently, we learn about the forces of dark and light. They are very different, but can be used for good and evil. They are simply forces. The Nine knew this back in Arrivals, and this was their whole message in that dungeon, the Guardian needing to wield both dark and light modes to progress through the activity. So predictions are fun lore-wise. From Vox Obscura to Prophecy, it makes you wonder what these enemies really know. The Psion Conclave was dead on, the Nine as well in some aspects, and they've been quiet for a very long time. Is that good or bad? Anyway, Guardians, this is all we got for today's video. What do you think is going to happen with the Nine, and will we return to Mercury and Io in the last two seasons? If you'd like to see some more Destiny lore and mysteries just like this video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Anyway, I thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.